Hello there. This video is going to show a little bit about a Comanche landing gear transmission used on Piper Comanches. I get a lot of questions about the two different types of transmissions, and I have here is a transmission that was made by a company called Dura, as in D-U-R-A. The other company that made transmissions for the Piper Comanche was called Dukes. Transmission assembly is basically this whole ball screw type assembly with a transmission right angle drive that goes onto the motor. So this is the transmission assembly here. Now this is a Dura. Easiest way to figure out if it's a Dura or Dukes is a Dura has this little rounded pushed in bearing type or end cap seal in it. The Dukes has more of a formed casting here that sticks out farther. Also, the Dura has 5 screws back here, where the Dukes will have 6 on this end cap. Other than that, to the non-informed owner mechanic, they look the same. The Dukes is built a little bit stronger, a little bit better, actually a little more long-lasting than the Dura, I should say. If the Dura is in good shape and good condition and maintained, it does the same job as the Dukes does, and does a good job at that. So nothing wrong with the Dura if it's in good shape, but we do seem to find more problems with the Dura than the Dukes. Just a couple of the parts on here. These we call Boomerang Brackets because they look like a boomerang. And when you go to disconnect the transmission from the landing gear system in a manual extension, or what would be an emergency extension, you pull this red handle up and you'll see there's a hole through here. That actually connects to the landing gear system in the airplane. A rod goes through there and moves the mechanism. When you move this handle up, it opens up that slot. See how that happens? Opens up that slot and the transmission will pull up and the mechanism or the pin that goes through there will fall out. So then it disconnects the landing gear system totally from the landing gear transmission totally from the rest of the system. So I'm going to clip that back down. One thing important to know on whether it's a Dura or Dukes, doesn't matter, either one, is these brackets should be nice and straight if you look down on them. Sitting in the airplane, when you're sitting in the airplane, it'll be in this position if you're in the pilot seat, and you can look straight down on these brackets. If they are bent out, that means that somebody tried to force it open. It didn't want to come open, and it bent these. And the problem is if it bends those, that changes the distance that it'll push this away. And if it doesn't push it away far enough, it may not open and let it disconnect from the rest of the landing gear system, and you wouldn't get a successful extension. So it's very important to make sure that these boomerang brackets are straight when looking down on the top and not bent. A couple more things on here. This is what we call the brake, and this is a brake solenoid. What that does is when the landing gear motor stops, when it goes in its full up travel or full down travel, that brake solenoid will contact this rubber wheel. Little rubber wheel back there, that's what that is rubber. And it'll stop the landing gear immediately, boom. And or I should say stop the motor and the transmission. So it's important that that works. If that doesn't work, and if for some reason it's not there, we found airplanes that didn't even have this installed. If your airplane, if you're flying and your landing gear's up, the landing gear, from vibration of the airplane and flying, the landing gear will actually start to make its way down. It'll let this wheel turn, and you may see the up indicating light go out, and you may hear the motor turn on for a second, and it comes back up, and you get a light again. That's because this solenoid is not either not there, not working properly, not having good tension against the pressure against the wheel, or the wheel could also be worn out. So it's important that that works properly. This is the landing gear motor made by American Bosch. Pretty much a normal motor used in other things in aircraft and automotive back in the day also. A couple other things on this. When on the Dura transmissions, there's a bearing, a pressed-in bearing retainer behind this plate, and that likes to wear out, and then it causes a lot of play between the jack screw, which is in here, can spin that around a little bit here. If the motor was running, that's what it would do. Between the jack screw here and the transmission housing, and you may get a lot of in and out play if that bearing retainer is all worn out, which is quite common on the Duras. This plate here was something Piper came up in the 60s for it was a service letter, and basically I call it was a band-aid to fix that issue. They knew that that bearing retainer was failing, so they put this plate on here bolted on so that if the bearing retainer did fail, it would hold it in. So a lot of the transmissions have this on there, and that's what it is. It was kind of a service letter, a kit that they put out to put an extra clamp in there to clamp that bearing retainer in. Anyways, that's pretty much all I really have to say about the landing gear transmission at this time. There's other information out there on what they should be lubricated with and how often, and other service information. At this point, I just wanted to point out a couple things. Dura has the 5 screws, has this little rounded cap, and is susceptible to having end play if this bearing retainer is worn out. And also to point out that these boomerang brackets need to be nice and straight. We have found them bent, and we have found them that when we did an emergency extension in the shop, that it would not disconnect because these were bent. And if they're bent, they shorten the distance here that it can actually, when you pull up, that you can actually push that out. Thank you for watching, and we'll have some more technical videos soon.